What's up, guys? It has been with 2020 election predictions, and I know that we have just finished the 2020 presidential elections, but I definitely want to keep my channel keeping on going. So I want to even look now at the 2024 presidential election because now that we've kind of um, figured out that Biden is the winner of the 2020 presidential election, I would like to look forward and see who do we think the nominees are going to be in 2024. I mean, Donald Trump was a very transformational figure, especially in Republican politics. What do we think he's going to do after the election? How much of an impact on the Republican Party is he going to have? So these are questions that definitely I want to keep on asking. Obviously, these were the results of the election that we just had. So what I did for this map is I took away all the tilt, lean, and likely states, and I have them as toss ups just because I don't think there's going to be a 12-point swing. And then I'm gonna kind of start to fill it in on like what I think are the states that are going to decide the election in 2024. One thing that I think is pretty interesting, Predicted has actually already started a forecast for 2024, and it is dead even. So, which party will win the 2024 U.S. presidential election? It is dead even. Biden had an advantage on Predicted coming into 2020 over Trump. The Democratic candidate, I think he was about at 65 to 66% at the end of the day, and Trump was at about 40. And we can see it in the past. The Democrat has had a slight advantage going into this. But one thing that I don't think a lot of people are realizing right now is that Joe Biden is likely not to be the presidential candidate, the Democratic presidential candidate in 2024, just because he's too old. He hasn't ruled it out yet. But I think now that he's won, this is a conversation that's going to increasingly incur in the cabinet. So I think before I fill out this map, who do we think is going to be the 2024 Democratic candidate? So these were the odds on August 24th. They haven't necessarily been updated yet. The front runner right now is Joe Biden, which I don't think he's going to be the nominee. The second candidate is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. While there might be a kind of a primary struggle, I also do not think that she's going to be the nominee. She's been pretty vocal about how she is defending kind of her stances, but because on some conference calls I've heard that the more moderate Democrats have kind of attacked her and attacked kind of the more far left Democratic socialists, because in the House the Republicans have gained up seats, and they blame kind of the socialist rhetoric from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for why the GOP had so much strength on the House and Senate level. I mean, frankly speaking, the Republicans outperformed expectations, and I think that if you're Mitch McConnell or Kevin McCarthy, you're honestly pretty happy with how the 2020 elections went. So I think that the front runner right now, and I bet these odds are going to change. If I were betting on this right now, I would definitely bet on Kamala Harris. I mean, Bernie Sanders does not have a chance for the same reason that Joe Biden doesn't. They're just too old. I think Bernie Sanders has even said he doesn't want to run in 2024. This was his last go around. Warren, not necessarily too old, but I don't think she would win the primary. If we saw in 2018, even in her reelection, she actually didn't perform that well. And I think she would be a loser on the national stage if she were to win. Some other names that are thrown around, Michelle Obama, if she wanted to run, I don't think she wants to at this point. I think she would actually be a pretty good candidate for the Democrats. I think she could have a lot of appeal. Andrew Cuomo, I think he could be. So I definitely think he'll be a contender. Pete Buttigieg, I honestly think is a rising star among the Democrats. I've seen him on Fox News a lot. He's very, very sharp and kind of very, very, good at debating. But once again, I think with the uh, I just don't know if how much the kind of the Democratic establishment is going to want kind of a white man at the top of their ticket because I mean Joe Biden obviously was there, so I really don't know. And then on the Republican side, these are the odds as of October 30th. So I don't know why Donald Trump is the top. I don't know if this is assuming that he would have won in 2020 or lost. Probably he would have lost because the Constitution bars him from running 3 times, even though he's joked about it. I think for the same reason that Joe Biden is not going to run in 2024, I don't think Donald Trump will. He might. He does seem to be pretty energetic right now. I think people would support him. I think he would win the primary if he ran. I really do think that he would, which is kind of crazy to say. But I really just don't think that he would have the energy, and I think that he would rather pass it on to his son. So right now, I think that Donald Trump Jr. his odds are going to go up. I think that Nikki Haley, Donald Trump Jr., not Kanye West. I think John Kasich is going to be soiled just because he endorsed Biden. Sorry about that. Um, I think that another candidate will be Mike Pence. Hold on, I'll be back. I think that one other candidate will be Mike Pence. I think those odds are going to improve. But let me kind of go to the polls and just talk about who I think is kind of the most viable here. So looking at this first poll, and this is a very preliminary poll, and obviously we saw after the 2020 elections that the polls are not necessarily super accurate. That Mike Pence is number one, which is not necessarily that's surprising. The vice presidential candidate typically is kind of the seen as kind of the next person in line. Next up, Donald Trump Jr. Not necessarily a surprise. If I'm on the Republican side, though, I think that the Republican establishment is going to try very, very hard against Donald Trump Jr. Donald Trump Jr. has been tweeting things like, look, I've seen a lot of 2024 GOP hopefuls silent on the issue of voter fraud and like vote by mail fraud, like they aren't fighting for it. So I think he's trying to position himself as kind of the next heir to the Republican Party, which is dominated by Trump right now. I don't know if Ivanka Trump was in this poll, but I think people realize now more that Donald Trump Jr. is probably a more likely person to be the next Trump to be president rather than Ivanka. Next up is Nikki Haley. I think this is kind of going to be the establishment choice. I think I don't know if she would get through a primary, but I think she actually could kind of bridge the gap between the establishment and kind of with the more Trump base. She's definitely more establishment than Trumpy. I don't know if she could kind of like keep together the Trump coalition. I mean, Trump got the highest voter turnout out of any Republican ever, so I mean, there's definitely something to say about that. Ted Cruz definitely has gotten more Trumpy. Romney, he's too damaged, I think. Marco Rubio, maybe. Kasich, nope. Tucker Carlson, I don't think so. I think Donald Trump Jr. would have a better chance than Tucker Carlson. Ron DeSantis is actually someone who I think could rise to become a presidential candidate. Rick Scott, not as much. I think he's a little bit too establishment. Tim Scott, I've heard his name thrown around. I definitely think he could be a candidate. Tom Cotton, maybe he kind of has bridged the gap between the establishment and kind of the Trump base too. But we can also see a lot of undecided. Some other names that I've heard: John James. He was kind of the failed Senate candidate in Michigan, or I mean, not failed yet. I think he's going to lose, but I mean, he outperformed Trump in Michigan, so that's definitely saying something because he did better than Trump did in the Rust Belt, which is kind of Trump's appeal. But I can't really think of any other names right now. The only other name would be Ivanka Trump, maybe. But who knows? I've heard Dan Crenshaw could be a potential candidate. Candace Owens. But we'll see. The most likely in my eyes are Nikki Haley, Donald Trump Jr., Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, Marco Rubio, Tom Cotton, even Josh Hawley. So that's where I think right now. I was pretty surprised. Michelle Obama at the top. Joe Biden not even on this list. So this is actually pretty crazy to me. Kamala Harris. I think Kamala Harris is kind of the obvious person next in line, but it's kind of crazy that Michelle Obama is more. I think that if Michelle Obama were at the top of the ticket, I think that she would have. She is the scariest person for Republicans, in my opinion. Pete Buttigieg number 8. I think these top 3 are honestly all pretty strong. I think Kamala Harris is the weakest out of the 3. I think that Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket does not have as much electoral appeal as Joe Biden does. So I think if you're a Republican, you're praying for Harris. If you're a Democrat, you're praying for Donald Trump Jr. I honestly think if I were a Republican out of this list, I would probably want to choose Nikki Haley. And if I were a Democrat of this list, I'd probably either want to choose Michelle Obama or Pete Buttigieg. Probably Michelle Obama. So that gets us to the map right here. I think that at this point, let's say this is Michelle Obama versus Nikki Haley. I think that Texas stays red. I think that Alaska stays red. I think that Florida also stays red. I think that Georgia actually stays blue. I see it trending more to the left. I see the South Carolina staying red. I think it will depend on who the candidates are. I think that we'll see Iowa and Ohio stay red. I think we could very much see Arizona actually going back to the Republicans. I think Sidney McCain had a huge impact and kind of and Jeff Flake and kind of being anti-Trump there. So I could definitely see Arizona swinging back with Nikki Haley at the top of the ticket. And also, I think South Carolina actually goes solid red because she's from there. Virginia, I see is staying blue. The Rust Belt is kind of where this state is going to be decided. And I really don't know. I mean, I think I see this happening, this happening, this happening. And so, again, this race is going to come down to the Rust Belt, who can turn out more voters. I think right now I see Michigan leaning this, and I mean, this is just a very preliminary election result. Let me know what you think about this. Obviously, I was kind of the most accurate for the 2020 presidential election. This is very, very, very early. But let me know what you think of this projection. Obviously, people are very, very split right now, and I expect this not to fluctuate a ton just because there's so much time going into 2020. So this is what it was in 2020. This is what I kind of project it might be in 2024. But let me know what y'all think, and I'll see you later.